With millions of YouTube channels, lovers of the weird, wacky, and what the choose Talks a Lot Entertainment. This is Dick's News International.
Hello and welcome to Dick's News International, where I cover some news from around the world. Normally on this program, I'm not going to include the United States in what we talk about in the international shit, but tonight is going to be an exception, because as you can tell from the head, the title, the head, whatever, we're talking about a possible war on big tech. And we'll get into all of that in a little bit. For right now, I will say hello to my friends in the chat. And that, of course, is Vince Womack. Hey, buddy, how you doing? I hope you're doing well on this wonderful, might be Tuesday, where you're at now. I don't know. But anyway, so I'm going to start this off with just a little levity. That's right. Because who doesn't love a little levity before we get into the seriously heavy shit? Drink of water real quick. Now then, our first story is actually coming from down under. And it's about what is apparently the most dangerous animal in the entire island of Australia. It's insane. So, what we're looking at right here is Australia wants to force cats to stay inside or give them a curfew because they are murdering so many other animals. They are a threat to the country's biodiversity. And Vince says, yes, it's Tuesday there. Well, happy Tuesday to you. Do you ever sleep? Just saying. And then, of course, there's this lovely picture of the killer beast in all of its ferocity. Yeah. And of course, it says both domesticated and feral cats, like the one pictured above in New York, pose a threat to Australia's biodiversity. Why didn't you take a picture of an Australian cat? That's just crazy. Why wouldn't you just... I mean, they've got to steal pictures of cats from New York because they don't have enough. I thought there was like a serious problem. Vince Womack says, what's sleep? That's a good question. I'll get back to you on that. So here's the basics of this. Yeah, cats kill 2 billion animals in Australia every year. They are considered an invasive species. Australian officials want to curb the negative impact so many cats have on the environment. That's right. And proposals include cat curfews, a curfew for cats, ownership limits, like you can only have 1 or 2, probably not the 15 or 16 that the crazy cat ladies might have. That might be an American thing. I don't know. And indoor mandates in suburban areas. Interesting. It says Australia has an invasive species problem. Unlike any other infamous invasive critters like the spotted lanternfly or the Burmese python, these ones are soft to the touch, enjoy the occasional pet, and love to lounge in the patches of sunlight. Man, there are 8.1 million cats in Australia, and there's almost no part of the country where they aren't found roaming about. Well, even cats like to go on the walkabouts. That's good to know. At such huge numbers, Australian felines, both domestic and feral, pose a real threat to the continent's biodiversity. Experts estimate cats in Australia kill about 2 billion animals each year. Wow, that's still a lot. I mean, 2 billion, yeah, it's going to be bugs and stuff, you know. There are 57 species in Australia labeled highly susceptible to cat predation, including 47 mammal species, including a report from Australia's Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment and Water. Okay. Now, for people that might not understand why cats are a bad problem in certain areas, it's because they eat all the smaller prey animals, and then, you know, the bigger things have nothing to eat. Hey, let's say hi to the chat. Hey, what's up? Keck44, how you doing, buddy? Glad to see you. Currently talking about the most dangerous animal in Australia, that being house cats. Like this monster that they had to steal the picture from New York. Anyway, yes, indeed. All right. To protect the country's biodiversity, the government is looking for solutions to their cat problem, according to the New York Times, anyway. While there are several measures in place to curb feral cat populations, like euthanasia, just kill them. It doesn't matter. A new government proposal is targeting domestic cats too. They're going to start euthanizing personal cats? Man, first your guns and now your cats. Putty tat. I thought I saw putty tat. Yes. I can't believe they're just going to come in and kill your pets now. But then again, during COVID, I think they did that with dogs as well. Yeah. Officials are weighing the possibility of cat curfews, indoor mandates, and capping the number of cats a household can earn. We already talked about that, honestly. Rely on these to protect the ecosystem, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole thing. So, yeah, the most dangerous animal in Australia happens to be a house cat. Or, in some cases, feral house cats. Yeah. Sorry, just saw a lie pop up on my screen. Should have shared it with you guys. It said there's no reason not to support The Guardian. And I'm like, I can think of lots. Anyway, I think that's enough time to lead up to our fun discussion here. Honestly, though, cats can be a huge problem for anyone that, for certain countries that they're not native to, like Australia. A lot of animals aren't native to Australia that could do a lot of damage. And that's why Australia has such strong import-export laws with animals and stuff. Of course, cats have probably been there for a long time at this point, but whatever. So let's get into the talk about big tech and the possible war they're on. Okay. Nicotine, hold on. There we go. That's better. All right. So, over the recent months and years, there have been several moves that make it appear as though big tech is about to be curbed somehow. Yep, see, Vince Womack says toads have overrun the Australia. They have. You know why? They're invasive. Those toads were not originally there, and now they overrun the highways, and it's disgusting. Anyway, so let's talk about big tech. The first thing I'm going to bring into this is actually US-based news. And yes, no natural enemies as well. They eat pretty much everything. I've seen them eat birds, like all kinds of stuff. It's crazy. So apparently the US Justice Department is suing Google. Why? Because the government claims that Google illegally used its monopoly power to stifle rivals, while the company says its practices are legal and mainstream. As we all know, they do this. They stifle rivals and they absolutely stomp other people out of existence. Okay? But this is important. Hail, Sean Landrigan. Pleasure to see you. Nagurdinal. I almost said it right that time. Damn it. Anyway, a federal judge will start hearing claims this week from the Justice Department and a group of states that Google abused its power as a monopoly over online search services. No shit. Google is synonymous with looking for information online and has leveraged its massively successful search tool to build a giant business spanning advertising, cloud computing, and online video powerhouse, YouTube. Hail to tiny metal trees. Rock and roll, buddy. What is up? Yo. Anyway, The outcome of the trial will have an even broader implications than Google's business. By putting decades of Silicon Valley practices under the microscope, it will provide an indication of how successful regulators in the United States will be in their efforts to rein in the power of big tech. A judge will decide whether the Justice Department or a group of whether, as the Justice Department and a group of states argue, Google abused its power as a monopoly. It's the first monopoly trial against a tech giant since the landmark proceedings against Microsoft more than 20 years ago. In the decades since, and this is the important part, ladies and gentlemen, okay, Google has amassed 90% of the search engine market in the United States and 91% globally. Why does it matter? If Google loses this case, the ruling could chip away at its stature and influence in the technology industry, something that could limit the way Google can compete in the marketplace and reshuffle power in Silicon Valley. They basically decide what we get to see on a daily basis. Just saying. It is also a test for governments to say tech giants like Google, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, and Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, no shit, have too much influence over our online lives. The nation's antitrust laws, which are never fucking used effectively, were first written more than a century ago for a reason, and this trial will show whether they can be used to rein in the fast-moving tech industry. You should have started this decades ago. Just saying. So, of course, this is talking about what Google did. Okay. Illegally using partnerships with phone makers and internet browser companies to shut out rival search engines. I wonder if we could come up with some examples on that. Hey, everybody in the chat and watching on replay, drop an example of this in the comment section and in the live chat. Thanks to agreements with companies like Apple, Samsung, Mozilla, Google has been the default search engine when billions of web users open a browser on their phones, tablets, or personal computers. Yes, it is, and it's... The government has argued that Google's multi-billion-dollar payouts to partners have prevented other search engines like Bing and DuckDuckGo, two very trustworthy search engines, by the way. Right? Not. Douchebags. From accumulating a meaningful share of the online search market. I don't want DuckDuckGo to get anything, and Bing can fuck right off just with Google. Yo, get us some better alternatives. Like Brave Search needs to be better. Brave Search needs to not bring me to Google. Just saying. The Justice Department also claims that Google's practice of preloading its services on devices that use its Android software illegally helped the internet company maintain a monopoly. Really? Google says that its business practices are legal and commonplace, and that when it pays to appear on Apple's Safari browser or Mozilla's Firefox, the agreement is akin to a maker of cereals paying supermarkets to stock its boxes at eye level. What? Sean says, I was going to mention DuckDuckGo. Didn't Google buy them or own them? They owned them in a way, but now, they're playing right along with everybody else. The search giant also repeatedly argued that it has numerous successful competitors in online search. The company points to companies like Amazon and TikTok as thriving competitors. I can go to TikTok and Google news, like actual news stuff, not just retards doing booty shakes and shit. Really? I don't believe you. And fake ghost videos. That's TikTok in a whole. Hoes shaking their ass and fake ass ghost videos. Like, what?
Even though they do not operate general-purpose search engines, Google argues that they are rival destinations where consumers can go to find products and content that bypasses Google entirely. That is retarded. Google, you have no argument there. You're a fucking idiot. And Keck44 brings up something important. The Brave has gone downhill. Suspect goggles. Yes, Google probably did it. Hey, we have Toxic Manchu. What's up, bro? How you doing?
How you doing, Corey?
I'm
Thanks
fantastic.
for the invite, buddy.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. We're currently talking about the U.S. Justice Department or somebody. Was it the Justice Department? Yeah, suing Google over monopoly practices. Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
Yep. The Justice Department, along with several states, is currently suing Google for antitrust practices and using illegal tactics to squash competitors. I mean, who would have ever imagined that goes on, right?
I don't know. That I'm shocked.
And,
absolutely shocked.
Right? And Sean Landrigan, that's a load of bullshit. Amazon and TikTok are not search engines. They're not.
No.
They're not. And you can't tell me otherwise.
Brave has a search engine. DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo's a piece of shit now. But
yeah, but I mean, yeah, they've cut that. And then there's another one out there that's been making the rounds on Twitter. I'll have to look that one up. But it's supposedly Google without all of the tracking stuff and bias. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the first search engines that were out there, Alta Vista, Ask Jeeves, those kind of things, they just went by the wayside. And the algorithm that they came up with at Google, when Google was formed, I'm surprised that they kept it because they were undergrads, or were they grad students at one of the.
I believe they were grad students at the time.
Yeah, grad students. So I'm surprised they were able to keep the technology, and the university just didn't take it from them. So they must have held something back.
Well, yeah, easily. And so this is the argument where we start getting into how petty Google is as a company. Okay. They say the government is targeting them because of their popularity. You're only popular because we have no other choice. How can it be because of your popularity if we have literally no other choice in where we go for this information? Everything routes through Google. Yes, Amazon can shut off your ability to be on the internet as an app provider, but Google can literally throttle the information that you're getting in every single app that you could possibly search through, because Google search is integrated in a shitload of apps. So, I mean, I don't know how exactly that would work. Let's see what Vince Wilmack says. If you're talking talks, you're muted, by the way.
I muted myself.
Nice.
I know this thing.
You're not used to not having control. That's what it is.
That's what it is, I guess. But not just the search engine, but the Google Ads.
Mm-hmm.
Google Ads control almost all the ad revenue. Because you think about, where does YouTube get people? It's on the ad revenue.
Yeah,
right? And that's all controlled by Alphabet. That's all Google from there. But I mean, of course, their popularity is the reason. That's why it's a monopoly, right? They broke up Standard Oil after Standard Oil had already lost a lot of market share to other competitors that came around, like Shell and Dutch and Texaco and things, stuff like that. What eventually became Texaco. But they still broke them up and did all that because they all hated J.P. Morgan. But was J.P. Morgan, or was the other guy? I can't remember.
I have no idea.
But
it's hard to keep track of who all these people hate all the time.
Google they had the algorithm that came up with better search results, and the way that they delivered it across the world, they would have shipping containers filled with these Linux machines, and that's really what made their success, was being able to build these Linux machines so cheaply and put them into shipping containers as data centers with inputs, outputs, and then just ship them anywhere. And you could just put them on the side somewhere. They had refrigeration units and all that kind of stuff in there, and they would just run. And that was their data center. they came up with that
Yeah.
concept. So they were able to store more data quicker than others. To me, Alta Vista was a much better search engine than Google.
All right.
But yeah, it's the classic definition of a monopoly.
Yep.
When they broke up AT&T into all the different bells. It's usually the big one people talk about that. But yeah, this is a monopoly. They have barriers for space, but yeah.
Hail to Ruben Christopher Haynes.
Hi, Ruben.
Hail. Yes. Google can manipulate market and culture, and hail Linux. That's what he has to say. That's right. I wish I would have learned Linux systems a while ago. I know they're not hard to learn, but if right now it's a time constraint issue.
Right.
Vince Romack says, but sometimes I use Amazon as a translator. I can search in English and get results that also contain the native version. That's always nice to have, but they're still not in league with, like, in the same league as Google. Amazon is overtaking the physical consumer market, and Google has long held the reins to the digital market. Hail to John Edgar. What's up, bro? Good to see you here. Glad you could catch it. What is Ecosia set as my default browser? It's like browsing the internet in 1995. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because I didn't really like waiting 20 minutes for a website to load, but boobs are worth it. Anyway, so
I like boobs a lot.
So this is just to establish the U.S. side of what's going on right now. The Justice Department is suing Google. Will they win? Probably not. I'm just saying. But we'll talk about that in a second. The next part of the war on big tech is the EU has unveiled revolutionary laws to curb big tech firms' power. Now, this at first may seem like an awesome thing, okay? But the deeper we get into it, the more you're going to realize this is just some more bullshit. But anyway, the EU has unveiled its set of revolutionary laws to curb the power of 6 big tech companies, including allowing consumers to decide what apps they want on their phone and to delete preloaded app software, such as Google or Apple's Map apps. See, that I'm totally fine with. There's a shitload of Google stuff on my phone that I wish I could get rid of, but I can't.
Right, that's the problem.
You
can't
terrible.
Unbundle that stuff.
And like, if
that's
this
what got
passes,
Microsoft, right? You couldn't unbundle the Internet Explorer from their operating system. That's what got them. So,
yep,
yeah, that's what got Google.
It screwed them. It screwed them. The package of laws will also pave the way for more competition in the areas most closely guarded by the tech firms, including Apple Wallet and Google Pay, which means it'll open up more third-party areas for financial transactions to take place. Watch out for scams. That's all I have to say on that one.
Right.
Okay, so this is where we start getting into the Ministry of Truth shit. Okay. And I'm just going to straight up call it that.
Right.
Okay. Hail to Sean Estep. I don't know if I said hi to you already or not, but hail. What's up, bro? Still wearing all those hats that you gave me. It's great.
I use the Wakanda Forever work gloves that he gave.
Dude. Yeah, me too. I use them as workout gloves because I do these supinated push-ups that drag the back of my hands across the carpet.
Oh, yes. Those are great for that.
And yeah, it's fantastic. Hail to Small Time Republic. What's up, bro? How you doing, Matt? Vince Romack says, EU wants power. The detractors don't call it the Fourth Reich for nothing. You're not wrong. So the Digital Markets Act, the second big package of EU laws to hit tech firms in 2 months, defines a series of obligations that gatekeepers need to comply with, including not engaging in anti-competitive practices. That sounds fantastic. It really does. But here's the part that it's tied to that starts to get crazy. Hail to E. Clay Thomas. Hail, what is this dick snooze show? Well, it's where you come to take a nap with a bunch of dicks talking in your ears. It's kind of creepy, but it works. Anyway, so the Digital Services Act, which was the first one they passed, It came into force on August 25th, and it aims to curb online hate, child sexual abuse, and disinformation with laws governing online content. Okay. Right there, the fucking label could just say censorship.
Yes.
On August 25th, the EU passed the censorship bill, where we can decide what you're allowed to see and what's considered hate and all this other bullshit. Okay.
Yes. That is the, they could have called it Crystal Knock.
They could have called it what?
Crystal Knock.
Crystal Knock?
Yeah, the Night of the Long Knives. I'm using a lot of 1930s Germany references for that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, what did they do first? They took people's right to defend themselves away, and then they took away their right to speak. And then that led to a whole lot of people not having a good day. So, yeah.
Right. And
it's just what they're doing now in modern times.
So they're saying that this new law that will limit their power intends to open the door for more competition. Within the EU's power structure, we'll say Germany's still part of the EU. This will literally limit, like they'll tell you what apps are allowed or not. The government will. They'll officially take the power away from Google, from Amazon and Apple to tell you who has, what am I allowed to see? Well, now the government will tell you what you are allowed to see on your phone. They're wrapping it up in this pretty little package saying that we're going to be able to uninstall all this bullshit we don't want on our phones and have more access to more things. But this is the same people who get to decide what's harmful. So now they're controlling what you're allowed to see online, but now then they're also controlling what you're allowed to purchase as an online consumer. And even if it's free, you're still purchasing the app in a way, and showing your support by downloading it. And these people get to decide what that is now. Okay. And this whole facade of a war on big tech is literally just a gigantic dick measuring contest by the assholes in power of the governments and the assholes in charge of the tech companies. Now, to put this into one step further, possibly into conspiracy territory, I think that all of this going on right now is a way to make a government socialism, worldwide government that is socialist and tells you everything that you can see, hear, all that shit. It's all going to be authoritarianism, right? But the U.S. Justice Department and the EU are currently going after companies that are, several of them are largely based in what are currently considered adversarial countries. I don't know if people in the world know this or not, but Google is basically operated out of India. And India right now is not anybody's friend. Okay. I don't care what kind of support they sent over to Morocco. I don't give a fuck what kind of support they sent over to Libya to help with earthquakes and floods and all this stuff. I don't care. India is not your friend.
Right.
And India, in charge of Google, is currently deciding what you get to see and hear.
In the United States. So you have a country that has, 3,000 years plus of a caste system?
Yeah.
Right? Where you can't move up based on which caste you're born in. You can't do that. So that's the country with some of the most strict censorship laws in the world.
And if you think about the caste system that they have in India, it kind of makes sense why YouTube won't let smaller creators grow.
Yes, especially now. They've specifically put in things to make sure that doesn't happen. They want all the ad revenue to come up. And there was a point in there, you talk about the fines. They're going to, EU's going to put a 10% fine on them. That's a way. So this censorship act that they passed is a way for them to tax these corporations.
Yeah, this is 10% of their overall turnover. Okay. So in Meta, that was $120 billion fine. Okay.
Right. So that's a fine. It's basically a tax, because taxes are compelled. If taxes were not compelled, then we wouldn't have the IRS with all those armed agents, and they wouldn't come after you and fine you and take away all your stuff and put you in jail if you don't pay your taxes. So it's definitely compelled.
Right.
And that's what this is. They passed a law to grab that money so that they can have more power. That's all this is about.
Yeah. So either way, the EU and the morons that signed into that great collective of humanity is either going to get the companies removed and decide what you get to see 100%, or they're going to rake in mad profits from these fines to bolster their own power without any type of citizenry input in its member countries. Small Time Republic says India might be changing its name to Bharat. Yes.
Wow.
And John Edgar says, I was wondering if that will happen. From the way it looks, they're going to. I'm going to say it's probably going to be 2025 before they actually get that into effect. But from the political climates in the international scene right now, they are working on changing not only their name, but it's going to come along with a power structure change that is probably going to be more akin to China, Russia, Venezuela, dictatorships masquerading as public charities, if you will. And that's how it's going to be.
Yeah.
And
I think,
Vince Womack, that's why taxation isn't theft, it's extortion.
100%. It just, it is what it is. But I think you're seeing, there's a story I was looking at for Monday Meltdown today and yelling at parked cars. The oil prices are going back up, and it's because Russia and the EU, two of the biggest oil producing entities in the world, I think Venezuela's in there with them, are cutting back production and selling it to different places, and they're also moving off to the Chinese yen or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
but I don't think we're going to get a full move over from the dollar to the yuan or whatever it is because of the financial difficulties China's having.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is
I just stepped all over the host. Now I feel at home.
You're good. You're good. What? Fuck. I also got distracted by this. Hold on. He says power structure change likely for the worse from the sound of it. I wonder if they will have a new flag with a hammer and sickle on it. I doubt it. The
India's always been this way.
Yeah, they're good. It's just gonna be the wheel forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because chakras. I don't know. I'm never going to pretend to understand Indian culture, the way they live their lives and stuff. I'm not going to try. I'm going to try not to sound super racist, but most of the people that I've seen in that country via the wonderful World Wide Web are fucking insane. I know they're not all like that, but I watched a video of 20 dudes beating another man half to death. He could have died. The video ended before the end, of course. But because he was walking through their neighborhood and he was of a lower caste.
Yes. That is the way it is. They are very much set in the... So it's like if the Middle Ages, the feudalism and stuff and things that was there with, living on another person's land and all that stuff, if that had never gone away and stayed, right, then they would flog you just for gazing on the queen or whatever. Same thing. It's been there for a very long time. You don't belong here. For all of the talk about being coexisting and tolerance and all that, there is none.
Yeah, and my biggest problem with the way that India is structured as a country is, well, obviously the caste system, but it's the way that they treat people outside of their cultures is way worse than anything I've ever seen in the United States. Hold on one sec. Keck44 says his is buffering a lot. Obviously, he's mad about it. So YouTube might be fucking with me a little bit. Tiny Metal Tree says Spectrum throttled him and he has to go. Well, I'll see you later, Tiny Metal Trees. Spectrum is a gigantic pain in the ass from everything I've heard. So I'm sorry that you have to deal with that shit show. But like, foreigners in India are classified as lower than the lowest caste system, unless, of course, you're a rich ass motherfucker. So, like, I've seen India has a fairly large Muslim population in it. And when Hindus and Muslims clash, it is unlike anything you've ever seen. Okay.
Oh yeah.
They literally start tearing bricks off of buildings to beat each other to death with. And it's completely fine according to the government. Now,
that's the way that they do it.
I'm seeing this more and more often, by the way, where governments are like, oh, well, as long as you're beating up the right people, it doesn't matter. And I could have sworn we were becoming a civilized world at one point, but
only in certain places. I mean, I consider myself extremely fortunate to be born in the United States. And during the time that I was born in and grew up, because I do not envy what my children and my children's children are going to have to deal with.
No, not at all. Dude.
I mean, we've had a 200-year run of some freedom. People rule government rule by the people that was unique in history. All history, it was unique. So most of it's been pretty much like how India's run stuff. The caste system is so much up things. There's very few meritocracies out there. And that's why everybody's trying to say how bad it is. Meritocracy's bad. All the capitalist system's bad. Well, I'm sorry. The capitalist system that we've been running here has pulled more people out of poverty than anything else in human history. We are in a much better place.
And not just that, through our use of capitalism and our understanding of what morals should look like on a general scale, we don't see this kind of shit outside of the most savage inner city places. I mean, even the Bloods and Crips are toning it down to the point where they're organizing boxing matches to settle turfs, like turf disputes and shit, like actual boxing matches. And over there, it's like, well,
normal.
I'm not allowed to have a gun, so I'm going to hit you with this cow skull that was on this mantle over here. You know, this guy has beef. Guess what? He gets lynched. It's not a civilized place. I don't give a fuck how big they build their skyscrapers. It's not a civilized place. Clay Thomas says, India is perplexing. How do you get a population of over 1 billion with a caste system of people who don't eat meat mostly? They will eat fish. They will eat a lot of fish. They are like other Asian countries in that. But there's actually very few members of the Hindu faith that stick strictly to the fucking diet. That's because if you look at everyone that's followed that diet, they were like this fucking big, on their waist. It's not healthy to be like that. I'm sorry. And they do have some good proteins over there. I love Indian food when I need a colon blow, but it's still like, you need meat. I'm sorry. To all my vegan friends out there, who is only one, and his name is Mike. Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry, but I can understand the need for different diet changes and stuff like that. But
everybody's different, proteins, right?
Yeah.
But the problem comes when you force what is good for you onto somebody else, needing to affirm your choices. I don't understand that. Craig Ferguson's one of my favorite comedians of all time. Really liked him at late night. He's pretty fierce. I guess that's the term that kids are using these days. And I went to a concert that he did. It was one of his shows, and he talks about he was vegan, and people are like, oh, look, it's a necessity for me because my body's rejecting the other things, and once I moved to this, I was much better. I have personally known people in my life that went to a vegan diet, and it was much better for them. I also know that I exist much better on a keto diet where I'm not eating as many complex carbs. I'm managing those throughout the day. And I feel better. My head's more clear. My body reacts better. So everybody's different. Even in the medical industry, they talk about personalized medicine. Everybody's genetic code is different. The way that people react to certain medications is different because of your genetic code. So it's kind of hard to sit there and say everybody reacts this the same way. You make blanket statements when you're not, everything needs to be personalized based on somebody's specific body needs and physiological needs. That's from there. So you can't have one size fits all and not lose people outside of that. It just, go ahead.
I was just going to say, hail to Caviteno Cavalryman Che.
Hey, Che.
He says they eat lamb in India. Whoppers at Burger King are made with lamb. I want a lamb Whopper. What?
Yeah, it's pretty good. My oldest loves lamb chops.
I love lamb so much, especially with the mint jelly. Oh, so good.
Anyway. Some people like that. I love that taste. And, you grill that stuff up. I like pork. Some people are into beef.
I love meat in general. Not the kind that dangles between the legs, but the good stuff.
That's right.
Cut off from tasty animals. I'm a proud member of PETA. People eating tasty animals, bitches. That's right.
I love that one. It's a great shirt.
John Edgar says, Corey is 100% correct. My doctor moved away, and I was moved to a different one who treated me like a hated stepchild, unbelievably rude, and openly condescending and insulting. And it was an Indian doctor. Not surprised.
There's things I could say about that I know personal interactions. I also know several that are extremely good as well.
Individual wise, I know a decent amount. I won't say a lot of Indian people that are pretty cool. They're chill. Like they're awesome people. But like I've met a lot of very like, I don't even know how to put it, like narcissistic even Indian people that like, it really pisses them off though when they're all sitting there talking about how great India is and all this other stuff, and then you ask them what caste they were, they lose their fucking mind. They're like, it's like, oh, you were poor. Okay, gotcha.
Right.
Vince says Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, said about the violence rising in London, it's part and parcel of living in a big city. It's actually it's really not.
No.
Just saying. Vince Womack says, sounds like the Bloods and Crips have watched too much RoboJocks 2 giant robot fights over a territory. It was actually very interesting to watch those boxing matches. Just saying, because those Bloods and Crips matches are crazy. Cavalryman Che says, although ironically for me, whenever I visited a Burger King in the Philippines, it was owned by East Indians. Most of the franchises out here in Colorado are actually owned by East Indians and several Pakistanis. It's kind of weird. The Chinese bought the liquor stores, but that's about it. Landergan says, unless it's Dovax, everyone has to get it. Yeah, fuck that. E. Clay Thomas says, don't confuse the vegans with vegetarian. Vegans don't even wear leather. It's not just about what they eat. I know, E. Clay. I know.
It's just like the extremists, all right, are side of that. That is very true. There are some vegans that say that go that far. Extreme people. There are some that don't. It's just the diet for them, right?
Yeah,
it's
for some people, it's just the vegan diet.
That's what it is.
that's more what we're talking about is the diet itself, not so much the vegan lifestyle, because those kinds of people have existed forever. Like, there's a reason it's a stereotype for throwing
they went back
on fur coats and shit.
When
just saying,
man used to, well, mankind, whatever you want to say, womankind, humans, there we go, walking the earth in hunter-gatherers. The average human height was 5'8" for a man, 5'3" for a woman. And then when they started to become an agrarian society that was more sedentary, that shrank. So men went to 5'6", women went to 5'1". And then it was only after we started introducing more meat back into our diet and proteins that we got back up to the 5'8", 5'9", 5'3" range again from there. So you have to have complex proteins in your diet and amino acids for your DNA to function properly. That's how that works. It's kind of like
I mean, recent
milk.
studies have shown that the vegan diet decreases overall bone mass by 30%, increases your risk for osteoporosis by almost 75%. It decreases the overall oxygen saturation of your body by roughly 3%. And if you're in the medical field, you know that 3% is a big deal with oxygen, as assuming you drop below the 90s. But anyway, like, the vegan diet has to be well regulated. It can't just be, I'm going to go pick shit and eat it, or I'm just going to eat fucking quinoa and rice every day for the rest of my life. Other than not being able to poop, it would really mess with your overall body chemistry. Like, there are things that you need to eat to be able to, like, digest things correctly that, some vegans are lacking. And then, it's just look it up. Go to a nutrition site and see exactly what, the differences between the diets are. Don't go to one of those fad sites either. Go to one that's actually run by a medical association, preferably not like Jenny Craig or some weird shit. Because, I was just going to say this, the Atkins diet, Charles Atkins died of a heart attack due to obesity. Okay.
Right.
The people that invented the keto diet weren't very healthy individuals either. It's all about how you apply the principles that these people talk about. It's just like international politics. It's all based
and
on
keto's
how
not
you
something you want to do all the time either. It's meant for something you do 3 to 6 months at a time. The one thing that really worked for me was a thing called sugar busters.
Yeah.
And they were taking what they considered to be a poison out of your diet. So the refined sugars and the breads that had sugars in them, that's what you were taking out, was all forms of sugar. And I felt really good on that. And I didn't have that processed sugar and stuff. And then it's hard to live that way and be in a city. I mean, to live that way, you really need to be off grid and doing other things. You've got to intentionally do that. You've got to do that early enough that your intentions can bear fruit.
You also need to take the time to educate yourself on, like, what exactly your body needs. Like, and it's a very cliched, like, hippy dippy thing to say, listen to your body. But, like, when you see a piece of food and it makes you hungry, your body's craving something inside that food, not necessarily the food itself.
Right.
And a lot of people don't do that. They go, I'm hungry, I'm just going to eat this because it's there. And it's like, okay, well, your body needed something else, and now you feel like crap for a reason. Shay says, India has a good pharmaceutical industry. Once peel off the label from my Veterans Affairs generic medication and saw they were made in India. They do have several very good and very productive and beneficial industries in India. Their film industry, for instance, is incredible. It's India's problem, like 90% of the world, in my opinion, comes down to the government and social interactions. What is okay? And in America, we have a bunch of crazy people running around cutting their penises off and shit because it's, they're, as my buddy Jason Fox from 540 Studio says, they're trans trenders, and they're doing it because they want the attention. In India, their problem is thinking that poor people aren't human beings. And,
Right.
you know, there's, you know, and America has a lot of great stuff. Does that make us perfect? No, not at all.
Well, it's you
Everybody
look
has
at
bad shit.
India, China, in that area, that Asian area, Asia area there, people are a natural resource.
They are. And
they're used. It's not something that is seen much. At least the perception is not what that is wrong here in the US.
Yeah.
It still is happening. I still see leaders here in the US treating people as if they're commodities.
Yeah, they do.
And all the time. So
well, and this is one of the things that we as a species need to understand. Okay, I may not place the same value on certain people that I do others, but everyone has value as a human being beyond just what services they can give you and what you can make them do, you know, because generating slaves is what all of the world's governments want, whether it be India, Iran, Afghanistan, the UK especially. They love slaves in the UK, but you know, everybody just wants to create slaves out and subjugate their entire population. And the problem that I have with that is that human beings aren't meant to be subjugated underneath one another.
Right.
We're literally have enough space in Texas to fit the entire world population. So why don't we spread out a little bit? It's because it's easier to control a condensed population. But beyond that, we've played too much on convenience in modern life as well. Like tribes in Africa go to war over turf because every inch matters. Here, we take farms away from farmers to put up a fucking parking garage, or you know, we stop an entire farming industry because of a fish this fucking big that nobody's ever fucking seen or heard of.
Right.
You know, like that's the
it's an administrative state. That's where we are.
And it's ridiculous. And we're seeing this on an international scale. The war on big tech that we were talking about earlier is just another step towards the totalitarian rule of not only the uniparty, but what is, in my opinion, the unifamily, because there's a lot of inbreeding and like nepotism that's cropping up that I didn't even know existed.
But when you look at the whole situation in the blue and yellow country, there are family members from both sides of the aisle who are making lots of money over there. So I got into an argument with somebody on Twitter. Surprise, surprise.
Shocker.
And well, the back and forth was about what was going on during a certain date in January and all that stuff. And I'm like, it got in. He said, well, your side lost. I'm like, we've been going back and forth and you still don't get it. And this is when he stopped responding. You still don't get it that I'm not on either side. I'm on the side of a fair trial for justice for this person. Well, it doesn't matter whether I think they're guilty or not. It matters that they got a fair trial and that there was actual due process and there wasn't the government destroying them. That's what matters.
And my big position on all of that is there aren't sides. Like legit, they've artificially generated these divisions in order to make
wedge issues to create these divisions. You are correct.
And when it boils down, it should be literally the American people asking themselves, what is best for America? It should be asked, what is best for insert country here? Not because nationalism is not a fucking crime and it's not a bad thing. It doesn't make you a fucking Nazi. I love my country. Would I want to live anywhere else? Fuck no, because America's the best. And if you feel that way about your country, then good. Fantastic. You are actually a nationalist. Congratulations. It's not a federal nationalist like you saw back in the early days of the US, and it's certainly not a state nationalist crazy fuck like Adolf Hitler threw in there. But when you boil it down to it, being a nationalist and not an extremist in any way is a good thing.
Yeah,
because
that's about
you stand up for it. They used to call it patriotism. It's a dirty word these days, but I'm a fucking patriot. When the EU tries to step in and do stupid shit, enforce laws that they have no rights to enforce in the United States, you know who's going to be standing there screaming at them? This guy, because the United States is now and should forever be a free country, free from other people's rules, free from the fucking bullshit that we're going through right now because of diversity and equality and inclusion. All of this is fucking worthless in the grand scheme of things, because when it boils down to it, what's best for your country is not having these fucktards in control. If you're in India, China, doesn't matter where you are, in the United States, they're all fucking idiots and they shouldn't be in control. And part of it's because a lot of them are old and they're puppets. But another part of it is because they're afraid that their legacy is literally going to die with them. And it should. It fucking should.
Well, Nancy Pelosi's running again.
Yeah, I saw that. Great.
And she, you know what she said? She said, we need to clean up the streets of San Francisco. We need to combat this crime. I mean, she's been in power there for over 30 years, almost 40 years. I'm like, isn't this your fault?
Right.
I live in Illinois, and I'm shocked at how much somebody was telling me the other day, well, it's the Republicans' fault. I'm like, there hasn't been a Republican elected to office in this area, around local area, in like 35 years. How the heck is it their fault?
Because and they just didn't looked do at anything.
And well, the person just looked at me, and I'm like, now I'm like, okay, you just realized you're an idiot, and I walked off. And there's sheep. It's very much like Neo and the red pill, blue pill, right? Once you take that red pill, you cannot go back. Once you've opened somebody's eyes to those things, and that's why they're trying to squelch this kind of news stories. That's why they went after James O'Keefe. That's why they're going after all of these people who are speaking out. Andy Nogue and all this stuff. They're going after them, and sometimes violently. Because they want those people gone.
The most dangerous thing to challenge is someone's barely understood delusional beliefs.
Right.
Because then they get scared about why they can't answer that question. Oh, I should be smarter or more educated, or maybe you're wrong, and people don't like to admit they're wrong. Real quick, though, over on the Rumble side, because I'm a neglectful person, gosh, like an inner city parent, Lord Shax, hail to you. Let's see what he had to say, huh? Let's see what he had to say. Brigan. All right. So he says, Toxic Man Flu, the fake Google search thing on X you mentioned may be similar to what Rob Braxman does with his privacy-based de-Googled Android phones that he sells.
Exactly. Okay. Rob Braxman is somebody that I follow over on Odyssey. He's got some great ideas and he's got some products out there for keeping you private. I'm not sure how if he is able to fight the IEMI number use. And so the reason that they started telling you that you couldn't get these accounts unless you gave your phone number is so they could tie you directly to a phone or device. And that means that VPNs don't work. Right. So you do have to use a VPN on a device, but you can't have an account with Google or with X or with Twitter or any of that unless you give them your phone number. In that case, they know exactly who you are.
Right.
Yeah, because you have to give your social when you get a phone number. Didn't used to be the case. So, and burner phones only get you so far.
Right. They're getting less useful. I'll say that. Lord Shax also says, don't read out loud. I forgot YouTubers apparently can't mention Rumble or even YouTubers that have been given strikes anymore if they want to stay on YouTube and get paid. Well, I'm not worried about getting paid, so subscribe on Rumble. Follow me here on Rumble. Follow Comics Division, 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser, Culture Casino, Escaping the Matrix. Follow My Brain is Breaking, the Basco Scenario. Fucking I don't think 540 Studios is on there, but you guys should subscribe to 540 Studios here on YouTube. Anyway, he's like Jason Fox is a great guy. And you can also follow me on the link that Vince so graciously dropped in the chat. Hail to Radioactive. Awesome to see you. We're actually winding down. So just in time for election season again. Please just wave hello to let me know you see my chats. I apologize for mixing them because I'm dumb. I would ask Tox to wave, but he got no hands. Toxic Man Flu sometimes reminds me of Cliff, the postal worker from Cheers. Indeed. Oh, he does. Look at that.
Look at that.
And,
there we go. I can even do this.
He's,
Look at that.
Yeah. That anime studio is really nice.
That's nice.
They like eggplant. I'm assuming he's talking about vegans or gays. Either way.
Vegans do like eggplants. It's a big thing. I can't stand eggplants. And in any way, shape, or form, but it is a big, they make the lasagna and stuff, and I can't stand it. So it's kind of like pickles. I cannot stand pickles, and
there's quite a few people who can't.
Yeah, honestly. And it is what it is. Some people don't like the pineapple on pizza thing. I do, and it just the pineapple on pizza thing. When we're doing that on Twitter, that's always fun.
Yep.
But I'm always worried that somebody really is starting to take sides on this.
Right.
They're like, hey, dude, it's just pizza. But it's good to...
For real.
It's a fun back and forth where you can throw insults at your friends because of the funny things they like. But you do fear some of this tribal stuff happening.
Yeah, for real. Lord Shack says he does have hands.
Mm-hmm. I do.
Yeah, he evolved recently, mutated as viruses do. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to bounce so we can get ready for Monday Meltdown. Tox, why don't you pitch that? I'm going to take a puff.
Sure. So coming up in an hour over on Comics Division's channel, it's Comics Division on YouTube. We're going to be on Rumble and hopefully Odyssey as well. We're doing the Monday Meltdown, so talking about entertainment, what's going on with that. We've got some, let me get to list I put together that I now cannot remember of what we're doing. We're going to talk about David Zaslav came out and he said that Warner Brothers should focus on Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter because they're underused franchises. I'm like, oh no, really? Got a new Batman DC. The DCU's first shocking death is supposed to happen with that. And then there's Michael Chabon and David Henry Hogg are suing ChatGPT for copyright infringement. So lots of good stuff going on with that. We got some great topics tonight. So join us over there, 9:00. That's in an hour.
Hell yeah, 1 hour from now. 1 hour from now, be there. Be there. What's up? And then, of course, tomorrow morning, I will be back, Corey's Corner, from 11 a.m. to noon on Mountain Time, of course. I hope some of you guys can join me for that one. I don't have a topic yet, but I will. Don't worry about that. There's plenty of stupid shit for me to talk about. But anyway, I'll see you guys in an hour, hopefully, over on Comics Division's channel for the Monday Meltdown. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, stay sexy. Definitely don't get murdered. And as always, have a wonderful time. Bye-bye.